We're going to have a very raw, organic, honest conversation about what exactly is food freedom.
Unfortunately, we were taught from a very young age to have this emotional attachment to food.
If you are in a place where you will never hate yourself to your dream body. You will never restrict yourself to your dream body. You will never diet yourself to your dream body. I know that this is cheesy, but until this becomes who you are, instead of just what you do to chase X, Y, or Z result, you will continue to stay stuck. Welcome back to the Becoming Her podcast. You guys, today we have the first of what I believe to be mini episodes with Team Becoming Her's newest coach, Jules Ann. And I'm super hyped for her to be here. I'm excited for her to introduce herself, a bit about her background. And today we're going to have a very raw, organic, open, honest conversation in and around probably like a topic that may be even slightly triggering for some, but what exactly is food freedom? And that's what we're going to be chatting about today. But Jules, take it away. Give us a little background, who you are, what you do, where you came from, like all of the things.
All of the things. Okay, absolutely. Well, first of all, let me say how excited I am to be part of Team Becoming Hers. So be one of the coaches. I'm super excited to be that. But I'm the short version of it is I'm 56 years old. And I got started in my fitness journey, probably like many other women and where they might be at like today. So I was what we would call a high performer. Maybe I was in a corporate role. I was the VP of education for a really big professional brand, we'll say. And I'd been doing that for several years. And then one day I woke up and I was like, who the fuck is that person in the mirror? And
I
like quite
resonate with that
literally.
so hard.
So hard. Like, who is this? And I will honestly say that I was always a girl that went to the gym. I was pretty health conscious, but my idea of being healthy and really what true health was very, very different. I wasn't aligned there, as well as I also was brought up to believe that I never was going to look or have a certain physique. Like, yeah, I was just big boned. I had a slow metabolism, all the things. And I decided to make a change. And so that is probably when I got into what I would consider the best shape of my life. And I was lucky enough to have a coach, and it was probably the first coach I'd ever had in my life. I'd always had personal trainers,
Mm-hmm.
big difference. And she was a coach. And even though I worked with her in person, she taught me a lot, and she taught me that I could change my body. She taught me how to fuel my body. And one of the biggest things that she taught me was a big piece on mindset. She said, Jules, your body is capable of anything. It's your mind we have to convince. And then proceeded to make me do, I don't know, fucking 50, 100 push-ups to prove to me that it was my
Wanted to do.
right, exactly. And it was like, there, you see, your body did not fail until we hit 100. Thanks. Could we not have figured this out a different way? So that being said, after, I started, not only did I change my body at around 48 years old, I also decided to do something that I'd always wanted to do, but never thought that I could do. And I started competing. So I started competing as a bikini competitor in the NPC division. I think I was 48 when I started. Since then, I've done over 15 shows.
Wow. I
Yeah.
don't think I did. I don't even think I even realized you've done that many. That's insane.
Yeah, I've done over 15 shows. I was third in the nation, and I'm currently working on getting my pro card after a slight setback. But I had decided after I discovered what I could do with my body that I decided that I wanted to be able to help other women learn and discover that this too was possible, because I spent so much time believing that it wasn't possible, that it was over, that I had a slow metabolism, I was big boned, all the fucking noise that you hear all the time, I believed it. And so I resigned 5 years early from my corporate job and went all in on coaching, and here I am. That's the shortest version I can give you.
Love that. I love that. And making such an impact already within the team. And I echo those sentiments, just as excited as you are to be here. We are excited to have you. And I'm so excited to see what, we have so many things in store for the team this year. So We, like I said, you guys are going to have this super organic conversation in and around the truth around food freedom. And I want to, I guess, give a definition of what I perceive as being food freedom. And Jules, I'd love to hear your definition. But my definition of food freedom is understanding how to give your body what it needs and to be able to combine that with what you love. That's my definition of food freedom. But I feel like it gets twisted slightly for some because they want to indulge in the give my body what I love, but not necessarily understand how to give it what it needs first. And so I would love to hear your definition before we really go too much further here.
Food freedom. I think it's very, very similar. I believe that food freedom is knowing what fuels your body. I like to use that word a lot, like what fuels your body. And once we learn that, having the freedom to be able to enjoy some of the foods that we love. But I also echo the fact that I feel like a lot of women don't really understand that. Like, and they get stuck in the place of restriction versus structure and a lot of these things.
Mhm.
And they start to hear, like, and rightfully so, we grew up in the world of diets, right?
Mhm.
And so I feel like that is some of it, but yeah, exactly. I really truly believe what you said. It's just understanding what really fuels your body. And then once you understand what those foods are and how to actually fuel your body, then adding in some of the things that you love. But you got to understand the differences first.
Between the two. And I love that you brought up the topic of restriction because that's the first thing that I want to dive into because I know you hear this with our clients. I hear it often, but if there are times where we have to quote unquote pass on certain things or maybe prioritize some foods over other foods, it's like, well, if I can't have those foods, then I feel restricted. And again, it's understanding the difference. It's not that you can't have, but there are times where you have to prioritize certain foods over others to be able to get to a place where you can fit in the donut. You can fit in the piece of pizza, like insert whatever food it is that, you know what I mean, light your soul on fire kind of concept. But I feel like women look at it and it's like if there are times where they may have to say, right, pass on the donut today or whatever the case may be, then it automatically their mind gets triggered into, well, now I'm restricting and now my food noise is going to be really high. And if I tell myself I can't have, then I just want. So I'd love to hear your thoughts in and around that.
So that's interesting. And I think a lot of times it's almost stepping back and going, do you really want that too? There's
Mm-hmm.
also that piece
Yes.
of it. So we say, like, I also will hear a lot of times, well, you know, I can't have. And I'm like, well, why can't you have? Like, you can have, like you said, anything you want. You can have anything you want. Lean more into why do you want it? Like, one of my favorite things I say, and I do this a lot over the holidays when I'm working with clients. And it's very similar. Like, I can't remember what you just said, but like, like you have a favorite saying, is it a fuck me moment that I really want to have this
Mm-hmm.
type of food? And one of the examples that I'll use, and again, I go back to the mindset piece of it because unfortunately, we were taught from a very young age to have this emotional attachment to food.
Mm-hmm. We were.
Yeah, we were from the and the reality is if we're really honest, and I'm not saying that it's a bad thing, but we're the only animal out there that has an emotional attachment to food that we don't eat for fuel only. I don't know about you, Nicole, but when was the last time you heard a lion say to the lioness, like, well, damn, I think I'm gonna go get another rabbit, honey, because I had a bad day. Like, right?
Truth.
So, like, but I mean, it's not our fault. But then, if you look at the US, we're actually one of the worst countries, even for that, over all these countries. So, one of my things is like, you know, diets take away, structure puts in. And you should enjoy the foods that you love, but why is it that you want it? Like, is it grandma's bread pudding over the holidays that, my God, you think about that shit all year long because it's so fucking amazing? Of course you should have that.
Yep.
And I'm not saying it's a yearly thing, but that I think it's a really good example. Like when I try to get my point across versus, her lumpy ass gravy. Why the fuck are you putting that on the plate?
Yeah. I always say if it's not a full body yes, then it's a no, right? And I think that just because the food's there, people, I don't know if it's that they feel obligated. I don't
Mhm.
know if it's like, well, it's here, so I'm going to eat it. And, it kind of looks good. But if it's not one of those where it's like, I am going to enjoy every single freaking bite of this, then it's a no for me kind of concept. And that is a really great framework that I utilize with a lot of my clients. But same exact concept, right? Like, you look at the gravy and it's a lumpy gravy and it's like, doesn't even really look that great. And I don't typically go for gravy, but it's here. So I'm going to add some gravy to my plate kind of concept.
Yeah. And I like that you say that too, because I do that a lot. Like a lot of people might look at me and say, well, Jules, you're really disciplined, you're very structured. I eat 90% of the time I eat a very solid, wholesome nutrition
Mhm.
plan. But I do go off my nutrition. I do enjoy foods, but my mindset has changed so differently after years of eating and really like learning to fuel my body, which I like to say, like I say that a lot. It's like even if I have a drink or a cocktail, it's not because everybody at the table's having a beer. It's not because I had a bad day. It's never that. It's like I literally am having that whole body fuck me moment that you say, like, I'm damn, I want a beer. And you know what I mean? But the real thing is, and I love what you said about the donut, is I probably have one or maybe part of it. And then I put it down because there's such a big difference, I feel like, between that. It's the same with the donut. Like, if I'm having that moment where, wow, that donut, I don't know, I just like, I'm going to probably have about 3 bites of it and put it down.
Because you're satisfied kind of.
Yeah.
And I'd love to dive into this because I speak too often that so many times I truly feel like it's not so much that your body's craving a donut. It's that it's craving the energy that comes from the donut because you're so mother effing underfed the majority of the time. Because again, we have not yet mastered how to give our body what it needs. And so, Jules' definition of give your body what it needs is how to fuel your body adequately, right? We're saying the same exact thing here, and you haven't mastered that. So, the standard American diet, the SAD diet is 80% processed junk, right? Like the majority of Americans are eating 80% of their food daily is coming from processed sources, which does not fuel your body, which does not satiate your body. And so the majority of the time, it's like the body you're craving, you're like, oh my, and I hear this, I'm a sugar addict. And I'm like, no, you're not addicted to sugar. Again, you just don't properly understand how to fuel your body. So I guarantee if you're giving your body enough protein, enough whole foods, enough fiber, enough calories to sustain and maintain, the need for the donut would dramatically decrease. And now, not to say, again, just like Jill said, there's some days where I just want that beer or insert whatever it may be. There's not to be like, there are going to be days where you're like, a donut just sounds really good. I want a donut. Cool, fire. But that comes after we understand how to fuel our body purposely. And that's what's missing for 98.999% of people.
Yeah, I love that you said that too. And it's sad that, the majority of the world, we eat processed foods. And, I mean, it is what it is. But the funny thing is too, like I think we were talking about this earlier, and I like this. So we hear a lot of women also, then they'll say something like, I don't understand why I'm not losing weight. I don't eat much.
Mm-hmm.
You don't eat much, and it's funny, like we will like we watch what they eat for a week,
Yep.
as women come in, and it's so interesting what I don't eat much looks like. What I don't eat much is, well, I had a handful of almonds here because, they're healthy. And maybe I had some chips here. Like, and sometimes we even think, and I'm going to throw it out there, like like Quest chips or something like that. Cause oh my God, it's got protein in it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we're throwing these little things in, and they're like these minute little amounts of food that we're eating that, to your point, that aren't keeping us satiated or full. So now we eat more and more and more of them. And now your caloric intake is high. So you're eating a little bit of food, but you are eating very calorie dense foods
Yep.
where you could be eating more satiating foods that keep you full longer, and eating, because I love that we people do eat more food in our program, but
Mm-hmm.
they're eating still in a calorie deficit to lose weight, but it's more food because it's whole dense food. So like I love that you said that because it's so common that we
Yep.
see this.
And it's usually from those who swear that they're only eating 1,200 calories a day. It is typically when that is the case, right? And it's, and, and again, because, and this is nothing against, that person, but it's just you haven't been educated, right? And as Jules mentioned, toxic diet culture is strong, it runs deep. And so we have this perception that small amounts equal very little, but when you're eating small amounts of calorically dense items, they add up and they add up quickly. And then also, if you're in a place, this is why I'm such a big, firm believer, and I know, Jules, you echo the sentiment of tracking, right? And understanding how to track. And I truly believe this with every ounce of my being, that we track for the short term so we do not have to track for the long term. I don't want anybody attached to a food scale and a tracking app for the rest of their life, right? Like that's not a lifestyle, that is a prison sentence. But I mean, I will die on this hill. There is a place, like intuitive eating is a real thing. And I want that for every single person, but you cannot expect somebody to intuitively eat that has never tracked a day in their life and think that that's going to work out well for them, right? Like intuitively, we all want very highly calorically, highly palatable foods. They're delicious. They are freaking delicious. And it's not to say that those things can't fit. But if you don't understand what really is in your food and how many calories you're truly consuming, this is 90% of the women who come to us who swear that they're only eating 1,200 calories. In reality, that 1,200 calories is like 26, 27, 2,800. It's double, triple sometimes the amount that they think that they're eating, because again, there's not the awareness, there's not the education, and there's not the foundation. And so food freedom, to be able to get to a place where you don't have to track for the rest of your life, you will have to spend some time tracking your intake. You will have to give yourself an overall awareness of your caloric intake. And the only way you will ever be able to do that is getting really open and honest with yourself, putting your big girl panties on, and tracking your intake. I'd love to hear your thoughts there, because I see you shaking your head like, yep.
Yeah, no, I love that. And it's so funny. First of all, I want to say, like, how many women, when we ask them to start tracking, are shocked at what they're eating.
Shocked. Like this has been, we call it the awareness week for a reason. They're like, holy shit, this has been eye-opening.
Right. They don't, like, I don't eat a lot completely goes away once they start to track what they're eating. So absolutely, it's 100% necessary to do that. And you talked about the word foundation, and I love that, because I use that language a lot. Like, before you can have the freedom, as you talk about,
Mhm.
like, you have to build the foundation. And I talk about it like, think about building a house. If you don't have a strong foundation underneath that house, it's just going to fall down. Like I say, you know, I like to say we build a foundation that's hurricane proof, because then
Mm,
you start to put the walls up, you put the roof on it, and then paint that damn bitch any color you want, pink if you like, which is the freedom to have these different things. But when you have that solid foundation, like you talked about, the intuitive eating, the flexible eating, the tracking, like, I have watched so many people, Nicole, women that I have worked with, and I've worked with hundreds of women, and I've watched them when we build that structure. They don't even see it happening themselves, but they start to intuitively
yeah.
eat on their own, because they're learning new habits and values, and they don't even know it as they're going along. And then they go off on vacation and they come back snatched as fuck,
Yeah.
and they had no concern about the weight that went up a little bit. They had no fear around eating off of their normal routine, should we say, or their nutrition plan, like what they normally follow, like nothing. And then they come back looking even better. But then here's the other interesting thing: they built such a different habit that they automatically, like, tighten shit up a little bit when they get
Mhm.
back.
Yep.
And that's what you're talking about, and they do it intuitively. And that's what freedom is to me.
Well, and I think that's an amazing point. And I think this echoes the sentiment of why coaching is so powerful, right? Because it starts to rewire the thought processes and the habits and the patterns. And I know that this is cliche, you guys, and I say this all the time. I know that this is cheesy, but until this becomes who you are instead of just what you do to chase X, Y, or Z result, you will continue to stay stuck. This journey is about cultivating values, just like Jules said, that are in alignment with that end outcome, right? And values are what we believe to be important. And so if you are cultivating values and you have values around strength training, you have values around moving your body, you have values around prioritizing protein, you have values around sleep and stress management, like there's no longer I'm on the wagon or I'm off the wagon, right? This is just, again, what you do and who you are. And let's be honest, vacations happen. Life be lifing, as life always does, as I always like to say. But it's no longer, oh, this curveball got thrown my way. It's the Friends episode. We pivot. We understand how to pivot when something gets thrown our way. And that's how we sustain and maintain a physique year round that we love and that we're comfortable in without it sucking our soul, because diets will suck your soul because it puts you in this box of restriction, and nobody can operate from a space of, you know, carnivore community, keto community, Optavia, Weight Watchers, insert whatever cookie cutter BS approach that there is out there. Nobody can do that for the rest of their life, and nor should you. Human beings were, again, cliche, cheesy, but we were put on this planet to thrive, not just survive. And so if you are in a place where you will never hate yourself to your dream body. You will never restrict yourself to your dream body. You will never diet yourself to your dream body. Maybe short term, you might see the quote unquote scale go down, but and I don't know about you, Jules, I've never truly worked with a client who's ever dieted to the extremes like that and ended up with a body that they love. They may have hit a number that they thought was going to bring them happiness, but I've never seen a client come to me like, oh yeah, that 1200 calorie, no carb fasting approach, I'm rocking my bikini and I feel damn good in naked. Like this body, I feel so good in naked, right? It doesn't happen. And there's a reason behind that. So I'd love for you to elaborate a little bit there.
Yeah, no, I think that's so true. It's so funny because, again, like the immediate thing that I heard is that then there becomes that scale, right? We become the slave to the scale.
Mm-hmm.
And that's literally what I heard you saying there is like, yeah, if you attach yourself to a number, that 1200 calorie diet, that Weight Watchers, whatever it is, it may get you to that ideal number that you're looking for. But I've never in my career, and again, lots of women that I have coached have ever had somebody say to me like they hit that magic number and they love their body. In fact, it's quite the opposite. I
Mm-hmm.
still hate my body. Why? Because you didn't build that physique, that muscle underneath it. There's a very big difference between weight loss and fat loss.
Huge.
Yeah, I don't think people realize weight is bone, weight is water,
Mm-hmm.
weight is fat, weight is muscle. All things that can, contribute to weight loss. And when the one thing that you do not want to lose is muscle,
Yeah.
and that's what builds that shape. And again, I could go way off on that topic. Like how many times women tell me like they're going to get big and bulky if they lift weights. I'm like, do I look big and bulky for the love of God?
Yeah.
Like
It's a whole
that's
other
your
podcast
shape.
for another day.
I know,
Sure.
sorry. I
No, no,
won't
don't
go
be
that
sorry, but I'm just saying that is a
way.
whole podcast in
I
of
know
itself.
it totally is, but like that is like women have to understand that. Like, yeah, no, you have to learn to fuel your body because that's what's going to build that shape. That's going to create, as again, I said, that foundation. And I love like literally what you said. Like once you understand the foods that will fuel you and fill you and keep you satiated and full, that desire for all those other things goes away. And I always like to say, like, if there's this ebb and flow now with you, it's like kind of a really cool place to be.
Yeah.
Like you kind of just will go off and, like I said, go on vacation and enjoy yourself like you were just on a cruise. And then you come back and you're like, okay, cool, done. Like,
Yeah.
let's just clean shit up a little bit here. And,
There's no even disconnect either. And that's the part that I love, right? It's not like I get back and I'm like, oh, I'm going to feel so restricted now because I don't have unlimited buffets and I can't eat all this amazing. And it's like, no, it doesn't work that way for me. I get home and I just go right back to the habits that serve me really well. And I feel really good doing that. And I want to dive into this piece of it because I think that this is a missing link for a lot of females is they follow generic plans that they find online, or just somebody told me I should be eating this, or my favorite influencer eats like this and I follow a day in a life of this person, and they miss the connection of, okay, this is what I should be eating in their mind, quote unquote, quotations, versus how does this make me feel, right? And they're not in tune enough with their body to understand when they start to incorporate more whole foods, more fiber, more protein. And they go, holy shit, I'm not drawn to this between meals. I don't like walk around all day wanting to gnaw my arm off of. Or, oh my gosh, I don't look 6 months pregnant all day long. That shit's not normal. Like, right? Like my digestion is flowing. Like I'm going to the bathroom daily. That is normal, you guys. I was actually chatting with somebody yesterday in my DMs, and she's like, I only go to the bathroom once a week. I've heard that's bad. And I was like, you know, and my heart just cringes because again, like, no, absolutely not normal. Yes, that's a signal that something is wrong, but the fact that you're living this way with digestion, like my heart just hurts for you because it does not have to be this way, right? Your hair falling out in chunks, not normal, right? Like all of these things that, again, I think just as women with as strong as diet culture has been, that we like want to quote unquote just put a band-aid fix over it as well. You know, you're on this dog shit low calorie. Yeah, your hair falling out in chunks, that's normal, right? Like, and no energy ever. Yeah, that's normal. You're giving your body less food. And no, these things aren't normal. So when you start fueling your body correctly and you can go, holy crap, I like my food noise, it quiets just because naturally I'm giving my body what it needs. Or again, my digestion, I am going to the bathroom every day. Or, oh, this is what it's like to have this much energy kind of thing. And that's something I just feel like is really, really missing because so many women are not in tune with their body.
Yeah, totally true. Too, I think, well, first of all, like that is like, I literally don't like to post what I eat in a day for that very reason. You know what I mean? What I eat and what fuels my body is very different than what you
Yep.
eat. What
I
fuels your body.
totally agree.
Yeah.
I
Like,
totally
so
agree.
that's number one. Like I have a different activity level. I'm probably taller, whatever, my
Yep.
height, I don't know if I'm tall, but you know what I mean? My, height differences. Like I never do that because what I eat in a day is not going to serve the person that's watching me. Yes, I like them to see it every once in a while, but I never say like, I eat this for this physique. So I just wanted to throw that out there. Like, I think that's huge. However, like what you just said, and the other piece of it is what is it doing for your body? Like, yes, women don't understand that. Like the protein,
Mm-hmm.
I'm more satiated. Oh, I increase my protein. I stay full longer. And now I don't necessarily crave that stinking donut
Yep.
anymore. I started putting carbs back into my day, my nutrition, and I have more energy.
Crazy how that
Wow,
works.
holy shit,
Crazy.
really? Or like you said, like, oh, I started eating more whole, dense foods, and now I'm actually using, I'm going to the bathroom daily, maybe twice a day. I've had women literally that, I start coaching and they're so excited because they started shitting,
Mhm.
twice a day, and they're like, I'm like, yeah, that's what
Those
happened.
things are
Yeah,
normal. Yep, that is
this is
normal.
normal. So I think, it's, and I think we don't pay enough attention to it. And that comes with that foundation piece is like starting to become really in tune with what you're eating and how you feel around it
Yep,
physically. You
physically.
sleep better.
And there's a space too where everybody's body reacts slightly different to different foods, right? I always like to talk when people ask me about fiber. I mean, I feel like fiber is finally starting to get the credit that it deserves, and your favorite fitness influencer is starting to hop on the bandwagon of how powerful fiber is, right? But it's one of those people ask me all the time, well, how much fiber? And I feel like it's like the Goldilocks of macros, not too hot, not too cold, not too little, not too much. Everybody's body responds slightly different to fiber. And I'm a big, big believer the higher I can push fiber for our girls, as long as digestion stays intact, I will. But that number looks different for everybody. That what the types of fiber look different for everybody and how people body digest. Like for me, perfect example, Brussels sprouts. I fucking love Brussels sprouts. I love, love, love Brussels sprouts when they're cooked correctly. They're delicious. Fight me, fight me. I know it's a love hate thing for most people, but my body doesn't love Brussels sprouts and nobody wants to be around me when I eat Brussels sprouts. That I can say. But again, it comes with and understanding these things comes with being as in tune with my body as I am. And I feel like, again, that's what's lacking for a lot of people because they follow generic advice and approaches and they don't understand that the things that they're going through aren't normal. So they like classify it and just kind of sweep it under the rug and, put a quote unquote, well, this is just part of what it is if we want to lose weight. And it's like, no, it's really not. It's not. Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's so true. And I love the piece about fiber too, because it is true. It's different. Like, working with so many women, I discover that. And like you want to push the envelope on that fiber, which
Mm.
is really those leafy greens. And they're
Yep.
good for you for so many other reasons. But, we've had women, I've worked with women where, you push it to a limit and now they start to feel super bloated and
Yep.
uncomfortable. Well, that's a big sign. Pull it back. That person can't handle as much fiber. And here's the thing that I think we forget about, and this just came to mind. Our own bodies can change from time to time.
Absolutely.
So, for example, like there was a point in time that I could eat a lot of fiber. I couldn't tell you why, but a few months ago, I had to reduce my fiber down to just about nothing. It was like it was affecting my body so much that I almost had to pull a lot of the greens out of my nutrition. I hate to say this here because people will be all over my shit here. But literally, it was causing more problems. And I had a lot go on with my life over the last 2 years. We weren't sure what it was, but I had to pull it out. I felt better. And now I'm bringing them back in again. So, like, and even to layer on that, like I talked about, I compete. Um, every prep I do, which is like a bodybuilding, can look different
Different.
to
Yeah.
get me to the results that I want. I have gone through body prep or body competition prep, bodybuilding. I'm trying to say this so everybody understands it, where there was no water pulled going in, and I know people don't really understand all of this. I literally, nothing changed a thing. Like I went in peak week and I ate exactly the same thing, and I'm looking at my coach going, what are we doing? And he's like, nothing's broke, we're not fixing it, we're riding this thing out. And we rode right into it. One of my best looks. I've had other ones where we had to, and pull certain macronutrients, which we don't recommend doing, but like for competition, and other
Different
ones
ball
were
game.
to put more in, So I like to bring that up because I don't think people realize that our body can change in what it needs from year to year, month to month sometimes.
Yep. And it's being in tune with your body to understand that. And that's the biggest thing is I feel like so many females are lacking that. And I shouldn't even say just classify this as females. I know males struggle as well. But I would love to dive into, because again, I know we spoke to, the podcast is centered in and around the truth behind food freedom. And, the reality, and again, is as we said, is the majority of you, for you to ever get to a place where you can intuitively eat, for you to ever get to a place where you can ultimately, get to a place where you get to eat the donuts and you have the flexibility and you're in the driver's seat, as I like to say, right? You're in the driver's seat of your relationship with food. You're in your driver's seat of your body. You're in the driver's seat with, how you feel and how you look. There is going to come to a place of, again, it's the education piece that is lacking. And so where would you say, Jules, I'd love for you, because I mean, obviously we're biased to coaching, right? Like you and I both, I mean, just not even as this is what we do, but you've had a coach that completely changed your life. I've had a coach that completely changed my life. And it just is the foundation now of both how we both coach. But where would you recommend for people to, because what's lacking here is the education, right? There's so much research out there. What would you say to the person listening to this is like, okay, I want to understand how to give my body what it needs. I'm not in a place yet where I'm just ready, whether it be I can afford coaching or I'm ready to commit to coaching. Where would you give the average person to start? What would be your advice?
Well, my first advice is going to be download my fitness pal, start tracking what you eat.
Yes.
That's my
Yep.
first advice. Because if you don't know what you are putting in, and I'm dead serious, because if you don't know what you're putting into your body, that's number one. You got to know what's going into your body first. Once you discover what's going into your body, like really take a hard look at what that is. Like, is it like, where are your macronutrients? And if you don't understand what macronutrients are, it's protein, fats, carbohydrates. Where is that ratio lying at? Where are you? And a lot of times I think you're going to find that women are under eating protein. So my number one thing
Yep.
is, and I know anybody listening to this podcast is going to go, oh my God, you're a broken record, but you got to prioritize your protein. Like, number one, if you're tracking your food and you find that you're under 100 grams of protein, which I'm going to tell you, you probably are, that's the number one thing I say. You got to up that sucker,
Mm-hmm.
and get yourself to at least over 100. I like to say a gram per body pound, unless you have a lot of weight to lose. But I think if you can start there and then lace up your sneakers and start moving more, you're going to be headed in the right direction. Like that, I feel is like one of the most easiest things that you can do just to get started in the right direction. And it's the number one thing that I see is missing. And I mean, the only thing that comes to top of mind that we haven't really talked about and I'd like to lean into is understanding what protein is too. And I think if you
Types of
track it,
protein.
yeah,
Yes.
because a lot of times I find women eat a lot of fat. And unfortunately, I think, and it doesn't matter, it could be healthy fats. And fats are important, but they are the least, they're when it consumes our total caloric intake, we need the least fats over all the other macronutrients, i.e., protein and carbs. But the world tells us that peanut butter is a protein source, and it's not, ladies. So that's the other thing is when you're looking for protein sources, when you look at the ingredients, if the number of the grams of fat is higher than the grams of protein, it is a fat source. We talked one time, Nicole, about even and I remember this and I like bringing this up too, is like even beef sources. Like if
Yeah.
you are looking at like an 80% lean piece of beef versus a 93, 97%, guys, it has now become a fat source and not a protein source. So you think that you're eating protein. I'm doing a great job because I just had a
Mm-hmm.
burger, but that shit is nothing but fat. So I think like, I know I kind of expanded there, but I think that is really like understanding those pieces will really benefit a lot of women.
And I love that you brought that up because I'm gonna add a layer to this where it's the awareness with the education that creates clarity. And clarity creates action, and action drives results. Right. And so if you don't have the awareness in and around what's going on, so, I speak to so many women and I love it. I love it, but they want to put a blanket, well, it's because I'm getting older, or it's because of menopause, or it's because of insert whatever. And I'm not to say that those things don't make things more challenging, you guys. We specifically work with women going through menopause. This is our bread and butter. This is what we specialize in. Believe me, I understand the nuances that go into this, but it's not menopause. It's not your metabolism slowing down. It's truly a lack of awareness in and around your caloric intake in comparison to how much you're moving your body with a very small foundation, or I say lack of foundation because you don't have much muscle to your frame, not prioritizing the right things, i.e., sleep and recovery, because ultimately they're not sexy, they're not glamorous, they're not the instant quick fix, right? So they don't sell. That's the real issue. But if you don't have awareness and it's easy to point, then you know what I mean, the water's muddy. Like you're not going to be able to see straight. You're not be able to see the path to get to where you want to go. So once we have awareness of what's really going on, then we can add in on top of that the education piece, right? And it is whether I always say too, because I see so many women get stuck in this analysis paralysis state, right? They spend all of their time researching and none of their time doing. I'm like, I need less thinky and more doy kind of concept. But find somebody that you resonate. And that may not be me, and that's okay, right? Like I'm not for everybody. That's totally fine. But find one person and make sure that this one person has the transformations and the testimonials to support what they do. They can back up what they say they can do, and listen to that one person. Because what I see happen is women come to me and they're like, well, I'm taking this from this person and this from this person and this from this person. And I'm putting together my own little concoction of a potion. And I have no idea what's working, what's not working, if it stops, why it stops, if it did work, why it did work. And then you just want to pull your hair out. And this is where you get so mother effing overwhelmed. So we need the awareness, we need the education, and then we need the clarity. Because once you have clarity, then action, right? Clarity is going to lead you to action, and action drives results. And so hopefully that is a little light bulb moment to anybody listening to this going, okay, this resonates. This really does hit home for me. I understand with food freedom, that ultimately is the end goal. But what I'm lacking right now is the true foundation of how to fuel my body correctly. And that's going to look different for everybody, you guys. Amounts, calorie, macro splits, whatnot looks different for everybody. And I hate when people put very generic, you should never do keto. And I speak to keto often, right? Like, is it a place where, ultimately, would I say that you'd want to live in keto? Probably not. But is there a place where cutting carbs for some women might be and might work if we're trying to work through some insulin resistance, PCOS, whatever the case may be? Yeah, absolutely. And this is why generic cookie cutter will never work. long term for you, right? Because what works for Susie down the road or fasting Felicia isn't probably necessarily going to work for you. So hopefully that's my little, I'm going to step off my soapbox now, but that's my little piece to it, because I know for a lot of women, what they're truly lacking is clarity. And it's because they don't have the awareness and they don't have the education.
100% agree. Like I said, there are places for all these. I mean, I literally was just coming off of keto myself due
Yeah.
to inflammation issues. Is it my favorite place to be? Nope. Do I do it all the time? Absolutely not. Was it done short term? Yes. Did it get results? Of course, but it had a very specific purpose
Yes.
behind it.
Yep.
And it's the same thing, and I know we've chatted a lot, like a lot of people like I will think that I'm against fasting. Not necessarily.
Yeah.
But fasting, we have to remember, was more, and so was keto, by the way. It was a medical reason. Like
Mm-hmm.
talked about it. It's not necessarily a diet, and you just talked about it. It's for helping with certain
Yep.
conditions, and it's short term. Same with fasting. It's meant for helping with certain conditions. It's not necessarily a weight loss, and I think that's where we as society or the diet culture went a little sideways on some of these things. Oh, well, XYZ gets, I lost weight on this. So, oh, it must be, so I love that you said that. Yes, you need to educate yourself and understand, because I think that lends into like what you just said. Like, don't just jump on the bandwagon because your cousin got results on keto.
Yep.
Like, that mean it's right for you.
I actually I posted a TikTok about a week or so ago that went mega viral, kind of talking about this concept. And it got a lot of attention and a lot of hate in the comments. And it speaks to kind of just what you said, because I had posted a clip talking about the fact that at the end of the day, I don't care what diet it is that you're doing. Keto, Whole30, Weight Watchers, intermittent fasting, Plexus, Optavia, Noom, HCG, calorie restriction. I don't care what it is. If you are losing body fat, you are in a calorie deficit and you're eating enough protein. That at the foundation, I mean, you could lose weight and not be eating enough protein. And it's just like what Jules said earlier, right? It's weight loss and fat loss are two different things. So that's why we prioritize protein. But every quote unquote diet works in the same, at the law of thermodynamics exists across the board. Nobody gets to defy that. Now, where I feel like, it's gone sideways, social media, different people, as we have these people that like live in, well, keto's absolutely the only way. Fasting is absolutely the only way. This way is absolutely the only way. And there's no best diet. At the end of the day, the best diet is first and foremost the diet that you can stay adherent and consistent to. Point blank, end of story, right? But ultimately, there's certain circumstances that may require different approaches. And we've lost the customization piece of this. I feel like with social media and like these, I don't want to call them cults. They're not cults, but these just, you have like the caveman community, you have the fasting community, you have the keto community that swears that this is the only way. And we've pushed a narrative that it has to be one way. And then women feel entrapped that it has to be in this box. And I don't know about you, Jules, but I've yet to meet a single person. Like we've helped hundreds and hundreds of women out of the fasting rut. And I'm just going to use fasting because it's still very common even to this day. That is, or even the caveman approach, right? Like of carnivore approach of I've yet to meet one female that we have served that were doing those things because they enjoyed them or they wanted to eat that way. They were doing those things because they felt obligated. They thought that that was the only way. They had X person push this narrative on them. And the reality is just not the case. And so, again, this is why I'm so passionate about the education piece of this and then being able to bring some clarity into it, because social media, it's a crazy place. And if you allow yourself to get lost in the noise, you can go down these rabbit holes and you'll find yourself questioning. I mean, there's a narrative on social media for everything, right? Like absolutely everything. You'll find somebody who's trying to convince you that spinach is awful for you if you looked hard enough. There is a narrative for everything. And so that's why I really do like say, if it's not me, if it's not Jules, whatever it is, find somebody that you resonate. If you're going to implement that approach, cool, fire, but it needs to be that approach, not the 18 that you're trying to combine with it.
Totally. Yeah. I think, TikTok, Instagram, all of our social medias, like they are just, yeah, people are coming at you. And like you said, I mean, at the end of the day, I was going to say the only thing that's safe is water, but actually there's people out there that will tell you water's fucking bad for you.
Yeah.
So at the
If
end
you
of the
drink
day,
too much, you're going to, yeah.
so like, and I think we spend, all that time that I'm just going to toss this in there that maybe you should have your sneakers laced up and you should be walking or at the gym, scrolling through social media, looking for that next best thing. And you get analysis
Mm-hmm.
analysis, like you said, I can do it. I can start to
Yeah.
question myself. I'm sure you have too, Nicole.
Oh,
Like
absolutely.
you
That's why
start to look
coaches
at
need coaches. This journey
internal,
is not just emotional AF,
you
it's
know?
confusing. It is so
Yes.
confusing.
I will go through stuff and I'm looking at other competitors, like, I mean, let's take I mean, anything in your life this could be for. Oh my God, am I actually posing correctly? Should I be doing this? Should I be doing that?
Mhm.
So like you got to stick with that coach,
Yep.
whoever it is, like Nicole said, that you resonate with, that fits, that you like the message and what they're saying, and just stay in that lane.
Yeah, move forward. And I think that that's a really great point. Like you said, like even I, as a coach who understands this shit up, down, left, sideways, can get to a place where I get, stuck in somewhat of analysis paralysis or, maybe even comparison trap kind of thing. And again, I always say, like, I have a coach as well. And it's because this journey means something to me and it's emotional. And it's really hard when it's your own journey and you're bought into to be able to add food when we need to add food at times, when take food away when we need to take food away, to make the changes, to make the tweaks. And so that is the power of obviously the coaching space of it, but understanding that even coaches, the best of the best, have coaches for that very reason. So the point here is regardless if you're in a space of, being able to work with or, a coach or not, my point here was, find that one approach and stop trying to implement 15 different things, because that's what I see females do. They're like, well, I took this piece of advice from this person and this piece of advice from this person and this from here. And I'm like, before I know it, I have my own little concoction of what I think is the next best thing. And I have no idea up, down, left, sideways at this point. So
Right, you don't know what's working and what's not because you
uh,
put so much shit into the pot, you have zero idea what's working.
yep. And again, that's where you lack clarity. Seems to be like my favorite word this podcast. I think this has been a really powerful conversation, Jules, and I really appreciate this because again, even for our clients, and this is where honestly, you guys, the theme of this podcast came from, because we had started to see a theme even with the women that we serve of like, hey, if I have to do it this way, then my food noise is going to get triggered and now it's restriction. And it's like, I want to look at this slightly different because again, our goal is to get you to a place where you have complete and total autonomy. Our goal is to get you to a place where you have complete and total food freedom. But that doesn't mean that you're always going to be able to eat the donut when you want the donut. You're always going to be able to fit in the cookie. It doesn't work that way, right? Is there any reason we have to completely cut them out? No. But right now we're in a phase and we're prioritizing understanding how to truly fuel our body. And that's the disconnect, I think, often when, I speak to complete and total food freedom is we want to live and lean too far into the give my body what I love instead of truly leaning into the understanding how to truly fuel my body piece of it. Anything to add, Jules?
No, I just love what you just said. I think that you just summed it up at the end is like, it's what does the body need versus what it wants,
Yeah.
and learning what it needs. And once you understand that, then you can play with what it wants.
Yep. What it wants. What a girl wants. That's where I got what a girl wants. This is kind of funny, just off the like, tangent kind of thing. But have you seen around TikTok the whole coyote ugly theme that's going around with women just like on top of their counter with the Leanne Rhymes song, Can't Fight the Moonlight? Have you seen that theme going around?
Well, no, I have not seen that theme, but I love Coyote Ugly.
Oh, it's one of
All
my favorite
I
movies
dance
ever.
on a bar, to
Oh
be
yeah.
honest.
Seriously, like I'm like, we need Becoming Her coaches like Coyote Ugly theme. I was like, I need to get us all together. And that just needs to be a skit. Like I see it all over. And all I can think about, I'm like, okay, how can I get us all together? Because that can be a challenge with schedules. But this would be the best reel ever. So anybody listening to that, be on the lookout because it's going to happen at some point. I'll see you next month in Vegas, Jules, because I'll be there for Jen's competition or whatever. But I'm like, how can I get us all together so we can do that? Because it's just like I'm like, oh, it would be so good, so good. Literally one of my favorite movies ever.
Yeah, it was one of my favorites too. We were on the same page with that.
uh, all right, you guys. Well, again, Jules, thank you so much. This is great. One of, I'm sure, many episodes to come as we think of topics as they come up. Just, I love being able to do these two, just kind of really just raw and organic and off the cuff. Well, that's just how we roll around here, anyways. But this is obviously the topics that we come to are things that our clients are struggling with. So I know for a fact if our clients are struggling with this, women listening to this podcast are struggling with that as well. So hopefully you guys found this valuable and we will see you guys in the next episode. Ciao.